First contact terror. The Kepler mining belt stretched across the outer reaches of human space like a scattered necklace of asteroids and forgotten dreams. Here, where the light of distant suns barely reached, mining vessels carved precious metals from floating rocks while patrol ships kept watch for pirates and claim jumpers. It was a harsh, unforgiving place where only the strong survived, and today it would become the stage for humanity's first true test among the stars. Fleet Commander Thexal of the Zephyrian Collective stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Talon, watching the tactical display with predatory satisfaction. His scaled hide gleamed under the ship's amber lighting, and his four eyes tracked the movements of his fleet with the precision of a born hunter. 47 star systems had fallen before the might of the Zephyrian war machine, their inhabitants either enslaved or scattered to the void. Today, they would claim their 48th. The humans were new to the galactic stage, barely 3 decades since they had achieved faster-than-light travel. Intelligence reports suggested they were weak, divided, focused more on commerce than conquest. Their vessels were crude, their weapons primitive, their military doctrine laughable. The Zephyrians had been watching them for months, studying their patrol routes, their communication protocols, their pathetic attempts at organization. "Commander," his tactical officer hissed, membrane-covered gills fluttering with excitement. "Long-range sensors detect a single human vessel in Grid 77 Alpha. Classification unknown, but it appears to be alone." Thexal's mandibles clicked in amusement. A single ship, isolated in the void, perfect prey for his hunting pack. "Size and armament? Approximately 800 meters in length, Commander. Energy signatures suggest basic fusion reactors and what appear to be kinetic projectile weapons. Nothing that could threaten our shields." The commander's laugh was a sound like grinding metal. 47 conquered worlds had taught him to recognize weakness, and these humans reeked of it. "Signal the fleet. We approach in hunting formation. I want this vessel intact for study. Perhaps we can learn something useful about human engineering before we begin the real conquest." 8 light minutes away, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of the UTS Stormbreaker, her dark eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded her. Unlike the cramped bridges of older human vessels, the Stormbreaker's command center was spacious and efficient, with workstations arranged in concentric circles around the captain's position. The ship hummed with barely contained power, her experimental fusion cores providing energy that would have been unimaginable just a decade earlier. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station, "I'm picking up multiple contacts, dropping out of hyperspace at bearing 27 Mark IV. Count is 12 vessels, various sizes." Elena's expression didn't change, but those who knew her well would have noticed the slight tightening around her eyes. She had been expecting this day for months, ever since intelligence reports had started filtering in about alien activity on the frontier. The Stormbreaker wasn't just another patrol vessel. She was humanity's first true warship, built in secret at the Luna Yards and equipped with technology that would make the old Earth fleet weep with envy. "IFF transponders?" Elena asked calmly. "Negative, Captain. These are unknowns. Configuration doesn't match any human designs in our database." Chief Engineer Marcus Chen, a stocky man with grease-stained coveralls and intelligent eyes, looked up from his engineering console. "Captain, all systems are green. The new reactor cores are stable, stealth systems are operational, and the railgun arrays are fully charged." Elena nodded slowly. The Stormbreaker represented the culmination of humanity's rapid technological advancement, driven by the paranoid certainty that they were not alone in the universe. While other species had spent centuries perfecting their existing technologies, humans had leaped forward in desperate innovation, creating weapons and defenses that existed nowhere else in known space. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran United Systems ship Stormbreaker. You are in violation of human territorial space. State your intentions immediately." The response came not in words, but in action. The alien fleet accelerated toward them, weapons charging, their formation spreading into what any military strategist would recognize as an attack pattern. "Battle stations," Elena said quietly, her voice carrying easily through the ship's communication system. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill." Aboard the Crimson Talon, Thexal watched with growing confusion as his sensors tried to make sense of the human vessel. One moment it was there, a clear target on his tactical display, and the next it seemed to flicker and fade, becoming difficult to track. "What is happening with our targeting systems?" he demanded. His weapons officer, a young Zephyrian whose scales still bore the bright colors of inexperience, worked frantically at his console. "I don't understand, Commander. The target appears to be shifting. Our targeting computers cannot maintain a solid lock." "Incompetence," Thexal snarled. "Fire anyway. Saturate the area with plasma bolts. Nothing can survive that much firepower." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire, hundreds of plasma bolts streaking through space toward where the Stormbreaker had been. But the human ship was no longer there. Instead, it had seemingly vanished entirely, leaving the alien weapons to expend, themselves harmlessly against empty void. "Impossible," breathed the tactical officer. "Where did it go?" The answer came in the form of 12 hypervelocity tungsten slugs, each one accelerated to a significant fraction of the speed of light by the Stormbreaker's experimental railgun arrays. The first slug punched through the shields of a Zephyrian, destroyer like they weren't even there, the kinetic energy vaporizing the vessel in a brilliant flash. The second and third slugs followed microseconds later, each one finding a different target, each one delivering death with surgical precision. Thexal watched in horror as 3 of his ships simply ceased to exist, torn apart by weapons that his shields couldn't even slow down. "Evasive maneuvers!" he roared. "All ships, evasive maneuvers!" But the human ship wasn't finished. It materialized out of apparently empty space, its stealth systems disengaging to reveal a sleek, predatory form that looked nothing like the crude vessels in Zephyrian intelligence reports. Instead of the boxy, utilitarian design they had expected, the Stormbreaker was a work of deadly art, her hull covered in angular surfaces designed to deflect energy weapons and sensor beams alike. "Target their command ship," Elena ordered, her voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Chief Chen, I want maximum power to the main batteries." "Aye, Captain. Reactors at 120% of rated output. We can maintain this for approximately 40 minutes before we need to cycle down." The Stormbreaker's main railgun spoke again, but this time the target was the Crimson Talon itself. The massive tungsten slug struck the Zephyrian flagships forward, shields, and punched through them like tissue paper, carving a devastating wound through the ship's superstructure. Emergency lights flickered across the alien vessel as atmosphere vented into space, and secondary explosions rippled through her hull. "Damage report," Thexal demanded, pulling himself up from where the impact had thrown him. "Forward sections. Compromised, Commander. We've lost primary navigation and 2 weapons arrays. Casualty reports are extensive." For the first time in his long military career, Thexal felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not the healthy caution of a predator stalking dangerous prey, but the raw primal terror of being hunted by something far more deadly than himself. "How are they doing this?" he whispered, staring at the tactical display where the human ship continued to flicker in and out of sensor range. "How are they moving so fast? How are their weapons penetrating our shields?" His science officer, an elderly Zephyrian whose scales had faded to a dull gray with age, looked up from his instruments with wonder and terror in his eyes. "Commander, I'm reading energy signatures I don't understand. Their reactor output is off the scale, and their weapons. These aren't plasma or laser weapons. They're launching physical projectiles at relativistic speeds. Impossible. No species has that technology. The humans do, Commander." The Stormbreaker struck again, this time targeting the Zephyrian cruiser that was attempting to flank her. The railgun slug hit the alien vessel amidships, the kinetic impact so tremendous that it literally broke the ship in half. Both sections tumbled away into the void, trailing debris and frozen atmosphere. "Signal retreat," Thexal ordered, his voice hollow with shock. "All ships, emergency hyperspace jump. Random vectors. Commander, we cannot abandon the... We cannot. Fight them," Thexal roared, his composure finally cracking. "Look at your displays. 7 of our ships destroyed in less than 10 minutes, and we haven't even scratched their hull. Signal retreat before they kill us all." The surviving Zephyrian vessels began spooling up their hyperdrives, desperate to escape this nightmare encounter. But Elena Vasquez was not in a mood to let them go. "Target their engines," she ordered coldly. "I want prisoners, I want intelligence, and I want them to remember this day." The Stormbreaker's secondary railguns opened fire, smaller projectiles, designed to disable rather than destroy. 3 more Zephyrian ships found their hyperdrives crippled, leaving them dead in space and at the mercy of the human warship. Thexol watched helplessly as his remaining vessels scattered into hyperspace, leaving him and 2 other crippled ships behind. The human vessel approached slowly, almost leisurely like a predator circling wounded prey. "Unknown alien vessel," came the cold voice of the human captain over the communication channels. "You are now prisoners of the Terran United Systems. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with immediate destruction." As Zephyrian boarding parties prepared to surrender their weapons, Thexol stared at the human ship with a mixture of terror and unwilling respect. In less than 15 minutes, everything he thought he knew about the balance of power in the galaxy had been shattered. The humans weren't weak. They weren't primitive. They were apex predators who had been hiding their true nature behind a facade of peaceful commerce and exploration. And now, they had revealed themselves to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. The hunter becomes the hunted. The emergency session of the Zephyrian High Command convened in the war chambers deep beneath the surface of their homeworld. The Great Hall, carved from living rock and decorated with the banners of conquered worlds, had never hosted a gathering quite like this one. Fleet Commander Thexol stood before the assembled war leaders, his scales dulled with shame and his wounds from the human encounter still visible beneath his dress armor. "Impossible," snarled War Chief Kexmore, his massive frame filling the ceremonial throne that had been carved from the bones of a stellar leviathan. "One primitive vessel against 12 of our finest ships? You speak of cowardice disguised as tactics." Thexol's 4 eyes blazed with suppressed fury. "Watch the sensor recordings yourself, War Chief. See how their weapons punched through our best shields like they were made of paper. See how they vanished and reappeared at will. This was no cowardice. This was survival." The holographic display at the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing the tactical recordings from the brief but devastating encounter. The assembled war leaders watched in growing silence as their ships were systematically destroyed by weapons they couldn't understand, wielded with a precision that spoke of advanced tactical doctrine and superior technology. "By the void," whispered Sub-Commander Yextal, her membrane-covered gills fluttering with anxiety. "They're using kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds. No wonder our shields failed. They were designed to deflect energy, not physical matter, moving at those velocities." War Chief Kexmore's expression had changed from skeptical anger to thoughtful concern. "How many worlds have we conquered with similar tactics? How many species have we underestimated?" He paused, studying the display. "But never have we encountered anything like this. These humans, they fight like us. No, they fight better than us." Halfway across the galaxy, in the sterile corridors of Luna Command, Admiral Sarah Chen reviewed the same battle footage with very different emotions. Pride, satisfaction, and a grim understanding of what had just been unleashed upon the galaxy. "The Stormbreaker performed flawlessly," reported Captain Elena Vasquez via secure holocom from her position near the Kepler belt. "All systems exceeded specifications. The aliens never saw us coming, and their weapons couldn't penetrate our adaptive armor once we engaged the deflection protocols." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. Elena Vasquez had been her personal choice to command humanity's first true warship, a woman whose tactical brilliance was matched only by her absolute dedication to protecting human space. "What about prisoners?" 3 ships disabled, approximately 400 alien crew members in custody. Chief Chen is working with the xenobiology teams to establish communication protocols. Initial reports suggest they're called Zephyrians, and they've conquered 47 star systems using conventional military tactics. 47 systems, the Admiral mused. That makes them a significant threat to human expansion. What's your assessment of their technology? Elena's image flickered slightly as the transmission crossed interstellar distances. Advanced by galactic standards, but they're using technologies that we abandoned decades ago. Plasma weapons, conventional shields, fusion reactors that are barely more efficient than our old Earth-based designs. They're powerful, but they're not innovative. And now they know we exist. Yes, Admiral. And they know we're not the easy prey they expected. Admiral Chen terminated the communication and turned her attention to the strategic displays that dominated the command center. Red markers indicated known alien territories, while blue zones showed human-controlled space. The gap between them was vast but no longer insurmountable. Colonel Martinez, she called to her aide, a scarred veteran of the Martian Rebellion. Initiate Ghost Protocol, full activation, all sectors. The colonel's eyes widened slightly. Ghost Protocol was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a military doctrine developed in the paranoid years following first contact with alien signals. It assumed that humanity would eventually encounter hostile alien species, and that conventional, military thinking would be insufficient for survival. All sectors, Admiral? That's going to reveal capabilities we've kept hidden for decades. The secret's out, Colonel. The moment Captain Vasquez opened fire, we announced to the galaxy that humanity is no longer hiding. Now we show them what we're really capable of. Across human space, the Ghost Protocol activation sent encrypted signals to hidden military installations, disguised research facilities, and seemingly civilian vessels that carried far more firepower than their appearances suggested. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, building weapons in secret, training crews in tactics no alien species had ever encountered, developing technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The Zephyrian reinforcement fleet arrived in the Kepler system 3 days after the initial engagement, expecting to find wreckage and perhaps a few human survivors to interrogate. Instead, they found empty space and the lingering radiation signatures of their own destroyed vessels. Fleet Admiral Dexron, commanding a force of 30 warships that represented a significant portion of Zephyrian military might, studied the sensor readings with growing unease. Where are the humans? Where is their ship? His tactical officer worked frantically at her console. No contacts, Admiral. The system appears to be empty except for mining installations and... Wait. Her scales paled to a sick yellow color. Admiral, I'm reading multiple hyperspace signatures, large ones, coming from all vectors. How many? I count 15... No, 20. Admiral, there are at least 30 human vessels dropping out of hyperspace around us. The Zephyrian fleet found itself surrounded by ships that defied every preconception they had about human capabilities. These weren't the crude, boxy vessels their intelligence reports had described. These were sleek predators, their hulls covered in angular armor that seemed to bend light around them, their weapons arrays glowing with barely contained energy. This is Admiral Chen of the Terran United Systems Fleet, came the transmission, broadcast on all frequencies. You have violated human space and attacked our vessels without provocation. You will surrender immediately, or be destroyed. Fleet. Admiral Dexron stared at the tactical display in growing horror. 30 human warships, each one roughly equivalent to his own vessels in size, but clearly far more advanced in design and capability. How had the humans hidden such a fleet? How? Had their intelligence networks failed so completely? Admiral, his communications officer reported, they're jamming our hyperspace communications. We cannot contact the homeworld. Then we fight, Dexron decided, falling back on the military doctrine that had served the Zephyrians for centuries. All ships attack formation. Concentrate fire on their command vessel. The battle that followed was less of a fight than a demonstration. Human ships flickered in and out of sensor range, their stealth systems far more advanced than anything the Zephyrians had encountered. When they struck, it was with weapons that seemed to violate the known laws of physics, railguns that fired, projectiles at impossible speeds, energy weapons that cut through Zephyrian shields like they weren't even there, and missiles that maneuvered with an intelligence that suggested advanced AI guidance systems. They're not just more advanced, reported the Zephyrian science officer as another of their ships exploded in a brilliant fireball. They're fighting with tactics we've never seen. They're coordinating their attacks with a precision that suggests real-time quantum communication. Fleet Admiral Dexran watched his fleet being systematically dismantled and felt the cold touch of genuine fear. These humans weren't just technologically superior. They were militarily sophisticated in ways that the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered. Every move they made suggested deep strategic thinking, long-term planning, and a level of tactical coordination that spoke of decades of preparation. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out desperately, "we've lost 18 ships. Our formation is breaking apart. Request permission to—" Her words were cut off as a human railgun slug punched through the flagship's bridge, venting atmosphere and killing half the command crew in an instant. Dexran found himself floating in vacuum, his emergency suits, life support systems the only thing standing between him and the cold death of space. When the shooting stopped, only 3 Zephyrian vessels remained intact, their crews broadcasting surrender signals on all frequencies. The human fleet hung in space around them like predators considering whether to finish off wounded prey. Admiral Chen's voice echoed through the captured alien vessels, translated by AI systems that had learned Zephyrian language patterns from the previous prisoners. "Survivors of the Zephyrian fleet, you will return to your territories with a message. Humanity claims the right to exist. We claim the right to defend ourselves. And we claim the right to expand into the galaxy without interference." The transmission paused, and when it resumed, there was something in the human admiral's voice that sent ice through Zephyrian veins. "Tell your leaders what you have seen here. Tell them about human weapons, human tactics, human resolve. And tell them that if they threaten us again, we will not be content to simply defend ourselves. We will come for them." Fleet Admiral Dexran, rescued from the wreckage of his flagship and now a prisoner aboard a human vessel, found himself face-to-face with Captain Elena Vasquez in what the humans called a briefing room. The space was clean, efficient, and somehow more intimidating than any Zephyrian torture chamber. "Your species has conquered 47 worlds," Elena said without preamble. "You've enslaved entire civilizations, destroyed cultures, treated the galaxy as your personal hunting ground." Dexran's translator collar allowed him to understand her words, but not the emotions behind them. "We are strong. We take what we can hold. This is the way of the galaxy." Elena's smile was colder than the void between stars. "Not anymore. You've just learned that there are hunters in the galaxy who are stronger than you. The question now is whether your people are smart enough to learn from this lesson. You cannot threaten the entire Zephyrian Empire with one fleet." "Admiral," Elena said quietly, "this isn't one fleet. This is a demonstration. We have hundreds of ships like these built in secret over the past 3 decades. We have weapons you've never imagined, tactics your military leaders have never encountered, and a determination to survive that your conquering species has never faced." She leaned forward, her dark eyes reflecting a hardness born of humanity's long struggle to reach the stars. "Your empire has grown soft, Admiral. You've been hunting prey for so long you've forgotten what it feels like to be hunted. Today you learned. Tomorrow your entire species will learn." The surviving Zephyrian ships limped back to their territory, carrying a message that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Humanity had announced itself not as the weak, primitive species the aliens had expected, but as apex predators who had been preparing for this moment for generations. In the depths of space, the human fleet dispersed back to their hidden bases, their secret installations, their camouflaged positions throughout human territory. The Ghost Protocol had been activated, and there would be no going back. Humanity had shown its true face to the galaxy, and that face was the smile of a hunter who had finally found worthy prey. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same